A perfect smile can hide resentment. A firm handshake can disguise fear. A confident voice can cover deep insecurity. Every single day, people reveal far more than they ever intend to, not through their words, but through tiny behaviors they don't even realize they're displaying. The fascinating part is that your brain is already capable of detecting these signals. Most people simply haven't learned how to notice them consciously. Imagine walking into a room and instantly understanding who is confident, who is lying, who wants your approval, who feels threatened by you, and who genuinely respects you. It might sound like a superpower, but it's actually psychology. Human beings are predictable in ways they rarely understand themselves. In the next few minutes, you'll discover how to read almost anyone in under 60 seconds using principles studied by psychologists, behavioral experts, and investigators for decades. Once you see these patterns, you'll never look at people the same way again. The biggest mistake people make when trying to understand someone is listening only to what they say. Words are carefully chosen. Body language is often unconscious. Someone may tell you they're happy while their shoulders remain tense, their smile disappears within a second, and their eyes constantly search for the nearest exit. Your brain notices these contradictions even if you don't consciously recognize them. That's why you've probably met someone who seemed off without knowing exactly why. Your subconscious had already collected dozens of tiny clues before your conscious mind caught up. Reading people isn't about magic. It's about paying attention to details everyone else ignores. The first thing you should notice is how someone enters a room. Before they speak, before they smile, before they introduce themselves, they have already revealed something important. Confident people don't rush to prove themselves. Their movements are controlled. They walk at a steady pace, look around naturally, and rarely appear desperate for attention. Insecure people often do the opposite. They either shrink into the background, avoiding eye contact completely, or they overcompensate by becoming unusually loud, animated, and eager to dominate every conversation. Confidence is usually quiet. Insecurity often makes noise. Now pay attention to the eyes, but not in the way most people think. Many believe liars always avoid eye contact. That's actually a myth. Skilled liars often maintain too much eye contact because they know people expect them to look away. Instead of asking whether someone is making eye contact, notice whether their behavior suddenly changes. If a person normally maintains relaxed eye contact but suddenly begins staring intensely while answering one specific question, something has changed. Likewise, someone who is usually expressive but suddenly avoids your gaze at a critical moment may be experiencing discomfort. The change matters more than the behavior itself. Next, look at genuine smiles. A real smile doesn't only involve the mouth. The muscles around the eyes tighten slightly, creating tiny wrinkles that are almost impossible to fake for long. Psychologists call this a Duchenne smile. Fake smiles usually appear too quickly and disappear just as fast. They look perfect for a photograph but empty in real life. When someone truly enjoys your company, their entire participates. When they're pretending, only the lips cooperate. Another powerful clue is timing. Human emotions leak out for fractions of a second before people regain control. These are called micro-expressions. Imagine telling someone you've received a major promotion. They immediately smile and congratulate you. But just before that smile appeared, there was a flash of disappointment lasting less than half a second. Most people never notice it, but once you train your eyes, these tiny expressions become impossible to ignore. They reveal the emotion people felt before their social mask returned. Hands are equally revealing. Comfortable people use their hands naturally while speaking. Nervous people often hide them, rub them together repeatedly, crack their knuckles, touch their face excessively, or constantly adjust their clothing. None of these behaviors automatically mean someone is lying. They simply indicate psychological stress. The important question becomes, why is this person stressed right now? Stress can come from attraction, fear, guilt, anxiety, excitement, or uncertainty. Never jump to conclusions based on a single signal. Always look for clusters of behaviors. The voice often tells a story the words refuse to reveal. Listen for sudden changes in speed, volume, or pitch. Someone explaining an ordinary event usually speaks naturally. But when they approach a sensitive subject, their speech may become noticeably faster, as if they're trying to escape the conversation, or unusually slower because they're carefully choosing every word. These subtle changes frequently expose emotional significance. Again, you're not searching for lies. You're searching for moments that deserve more attention. People also reveal themselves through the space they create around others. Confident individuals generally respect personal boundaries while remaining relaxed. Someone who constantly invades your space without invitation may be attempting to establish dominance. Someone who repeatedly steps backward might feel intimidated or uncomfortable. Distance is one of the oldest forms of nonverbal communication. Before language existed, our ancestors survived by interpreting movement and proximity. Those instincts still live inside us today. One of the fastest ways to understand a person's true character is to observe how they treat people from whom they have nothing to gain. Watch how they speak to a waiter, a cleaner, a receptionist, or a cashier. Kindness shown only toward powerful people isn't kindness. It's strategy. Genuine character appears when nobody important seems to be watching. A person who shows respect consistently is revealing something far deeper than someone who merely says the right words. Now consider the power of silence. Most people fear it. They rush to fill every quiet moment because silence creates psychological pressure. If you ask someone an important question and remain silent after they answer, something interesting often happens. Many people continue talking, adding details they never intended to reveal. Skilled interviewers, negotiators, and investigators understand this principle well. Silence isn't empty. It's an invitation for the other person to expose more than they planned. Mirroring is another fascinating psychological phenomenon. Without realizing it, people often imitate the body language of those they like or trust. If you lean forward and they gradually do the same, that's meaningful. If you cross your legs and they naturally mirror the movement moments later, rapport may already be developing. But forced mirroring feels unnatural. Genuine mirroring happens unconsciously over time. It reflects comfort rather than manipulation. Pay attention to where someone's feet are pointing. It sounds almost too simple, yet psychologists have long observed that feet often reveal hidden intentions because people pay less attention to controlling them. During a conversation, if someone's feet remain directed toward you, they're usually engaged. If their upper body faces you but their feet point toward the exit, part of their mind may already be preparing to leave. The body frequently tells the truth before the mouth does. Another overlooked clue is reaction versus response. Imagine accidentally interrupting someone. Do they immediately become defensive? Do they laugh it off? Do they pause before answering? The first emotional reaction often reveals personality better than carefully planned responses. People can rehearse speeches, but they rarely rehearse surprises. Unexpected moments expose authentic emotional habits. There's also an important principle called baseline behavior. Before judging anyone, you need to understand how they normally act. Some people naturally speak quickly. Others naturally avoid eye contact because they're shy, not deceptive. Some constantly move their hands because they're energetic. If you don't know a person's baseline, you'll misread ordinary behavior as something suspicious. Great people readers compare current behavior against normal behavior, not against stereotypes. One of the strongest indicators of genuine confidence is comfort with imperfection. Truly confident people don't feel the need to win every argument or impress every stranger. They admit when they don't know something. They laugh at their own mistakes. They don't panic when challenged because their identity isn't built on appearing flawless. Ironically, the people trying hardest to look confident are often hiding the deepest insecurity. Finally, remember this. Reading people is not about becoming suspicious of everyone you meet. It's about becoming more observant, more empathetic, and more aware of human nature. Every movement, every pause, every expression is a small piece of a much larger puzzle. Your goal isn't to judge someone in 60 seconds. Your goal is to notice the clues that most people miss, allowing you to understand others with greater accuracy and compassion. And this is only the beginning. The most powerful psychological signals, the ones that reveal hidden attraction, concealed resentment, manipulation tactics, and even silent dominance, are still ahead. In the next part, you'll discover the advanced techniques that experts use to uncover what people are truly thinking, often before they say a single word. Imagine meeting two people who say exactly the same words. Both smile. Both shake your hand. Both tell you they're happy to meet you. Yet something about one of them immediately feels trustworthy, while the other leaves you strangely uncomfortable. That feeling isn't random. Your brain is constantly collecting thousands of tiny signals that your conscious mind barely notices. In part 1, you learned how to recognize the obvious clues. Now it's time to understand the deeper psychological patterns that reveal a person's true intentions long before they ever admit them. One of the fastest ways to understand someone is to watch what happens when they lose control of a situation. Anyone can appear calm when everything goes according to plan. But introduce an unexpected delay, a disagreement, or a small inconvenience, and their real personality begins to surface. Some people remain patient because emotional stability is part of who they are. Others become irritated almost instantly because they rely on control to feel secure. A person's reaction to frustration often tells you more than hours of conversation ever could. Character is not revealed during comfort. It is revealed during pressure. Another powerful clue lies in how people talk about others. Listen carefully when someone describes a friend, a coworker, or even a stranger. Do they constantly criticize people? Do they assume bad intentions? Do they enjoy gossip more than understanding? Psychology suggests that people often project their own mindset onto the world around them. Someone who expects betrayal everywhere may struggle with trust themselves. Someone who constantly searches for flaws often fears being judged by others. The stories people tell about everyone else usually reveal the story they secretly believe about themselves. Now pay attention to the questions people ask. Most conversations focus on answers, but questions are often even more revealing. Curious people ask questions because they genuinely want to understand. Manipulative people ask questions to collect information they can use later. Insecure people ask questions that seek reassurance rather than knowledge. Confident people ask thoughtful questions that encourage deeper conversation without making the other person feel examined. Every question has a hidden purpose, and discovering that purpose allows you to understand the person asking it. One of the biggest misconceptions about confidence is that it always looks bold. In reality, true confidence is usually calm. Truly confident people don't interrupt constantly because they aren't afraid of being forgotten. They don't dominate every discussion because they don't need to prove their importance. They allow silence. They listen carefully. They disagree respectfully. Meanwhile, people who constantly compete for attention often reveal an underlying fear that they are not enough. The louder someone tries to appear, the more carefully you should observe what they may be trying to hide. There is also a fascinating psychological principle known as emotional contagion. Human emotions spread almost like a virus. Spend enough time around someone who is constantly anxious, and you may begin feeling anxious without understanding why. Spend time with someone genuinely peaceful, and your own stress often decreases. This happens because our brains automatically mirror the emotional state of those around us. If you want to read someone quickly, ask yourself a simple question. How do I consistently feel after spending time with this person? Drained, inspired, nervous, relaxed? Your emotional response may reveal more than their words ever will. Watch how people respond when someone else succeeds. Success acts like a mirror that reflects hidden emotions. Genuine friends celebrate without hesitation. They ask questions, express excitement, and encourage future success. Others may congratulate you while immediately changing the subject, minimizing your achievement. or redirecting attention toward themselves. Envy rarely announces itself openly. It hides behind polite smiles, forced compliments, and subtle attempts to reduce another person's accomplishments. The difference is often visible only for a brief moment, but once you learn to recognize it, it becomes impossible to ignore. Another overlooked clue is consistency. Honest people usually tell the same story because they remember what actually happened. Dishonest people often remember what they said instead of what they experienced. As time passes, unnecessary details change, explanations become longer, and simple questions receive complicated answers. This doesn't mean every inconsistency is a lie. Memory is imperfect. But when someone repeatedly changes important parts of a story while becoming increasingly defensive, your attention should increase rather than disappear. People also reveal themselves through responsibility. Listen closely when they explain past failures. Do they blame everyone else? Bad bosses, bad friends, bad luck, bad timing. While circumstances certainly matter, people who never accept responsibility often repeat the same mistakes because they never believe they caused them. On the other hand, emotionally mature individuals acknowledge both external challenges and their own role in the outcome. Accountability is one of the clearest signs of personal growth. There is another behavior that quietly exposes hidden insecurity: constant comparison. People who frequently compare themselves to others often struggle to define their own worth independently. They measure success by what someone else owns, earns, or achieves. Confident individuals certainly notice competition, but they spend far more time improving themselves than monitoring everyone around them. If someone constantly brings every conversation back to status, money, appearance, or recognition, they may be revealing an internal battle that has nothing to do with you. One of the most valuable skills you can develop is distinguishing between nervousness and deception. They are not the same. An honest person may appear nervous during a job interview because they care about the outcome. Someone meeting your family for the first time may fidget simply because they want to make a good impression. Nervous behavior reflects emotion, not guilt. That's why experienced psychologists never rely on one signal alone. Instead, they observe patterns that appear together over time. Reading people is about probability, not certainty. Perhaps the greatest mistake people make is believing they can completely understand another person in 60 seconds. The truth is more balanced. In 60 seconds, you can gather meaningful clues. You can notice confidence, anxiety, openness, defensiveness, curiosity, or discomfort, but real understanding requires patience. Every observation should remain a hypothesis until supported by repeated experience. The best people readers remain humble because they know first impressions can sometimes be wrong. Empathy is the final piece of the puzzle. Without empathy, reading people becomes manipulation. With empathy, it becomes understanding. Instead of asking, "How can I use this information?" ask, "What might this person be feeling right now?" That simple shift changes everything. It allows you to respond with wisdom rather than judgment. It strengthens relationships instead of weakening them. It helps you recognize pain behind anger, fear behind arrogance, and loneliness behind excessive confidence. The more you study human behavior, the more you realize that everyone is fighting invisible battles. The person who seems cold may have learned not to trust. The one who talks endlessly may fear being ignored. The one who appears confident may secretly doubt themselves every single day. Reading people is not about exposing weakness. It's about seeing humanity more clearly. The next time you walk into a room, don't rush to speak. Observe. Notice who listens more than they talk. Notice who seeks attention and who quietly earns respect. Notice genuine smiles, comfortable silence, subtle reactions, and changing emotions. Within 60 seconds, you'll already know more than most people discover after months of conversation. Not because you possess a supernatural gift, but because you've trained yourself to notice what has always been there. And remember the most important lesson of all. The greatest person you will ever learn to read is yourself. When you understand your own fears, your own habits, your own emotional triggers, and your own hidden motivations, reading others becomes far easier. Self-awareness sharpens observation. The more honest you become with yourself, the more accurately you can understand everyone around you. Human behavior will always remain beautifully complex. No technique is perfect. No method guarantees certainty. But by observing patterns instead of isolated actions, by replacing assumptions with curiosity, and by choosing empathy over judgment, you'll develop a skill that can improve every relationship, every conversation, and every important decision you make. Because in the end, the people who understand others best are rarely the loudest in the room. They are the ones who pay attention, listen deeply, observe patiently, and realize that every face tells a story, if you know how to look. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into human psychology, subscribe for more videos that reveal the hidden patterns behind everyday behavior. Until next time, keep observing, keep learning, and remember, the mind always speaks, even when the mouth stays silent.